Alright, now we can get back down to business. Sorry for the delay. I had to order some pieces that I had covered, but I just wasn't happy with the ones that I had, so I went ahead and bought some brand new ones. So we're going to get this shift return spring pin out of there and get a new one in, because since I didn't have this case to begin with, I don't know what somebody did with that pin. So I don't know if it has Loctite on it. I don't know if it's the right torque spec. So I'm going to go ahead and take it out and put a brand new one in there. And we have a brand new shift shaft that I'm going to have to... Got brand new circlips. So we're going to take the spring off the old one. And we're going to put it on the new one here. We got a new return spring also. So we'll get on down to business. Alright. It's time to move on to the transmission. So a 2014 400X transmission I bought off of eBay. And I can't remember what I paid for it. But this was before the pandemic, thank God. Because I didn't pay an arm and a leg for it. But anyway, we're going to check it out to make sure that we have all the pieces that we need and clean it up. So let's get to town, shall we? A few of our gears and excess nuts and bolts and stuff. There's the forks. Alright, where do we start? I guess I should probably do the small pieces over here and the larger pieces over here. Well, here we have our shift forks, and everything looks awfully clean. Whoever I bought this from, thank you. You know what? I think they threw in some extra pieces for some reason. That's an oil screen for the bottom of the case. And this, I have a brand new one, so we don't need that anyway. Thank you for the pieces, but I'll put them on my eBay store, of course. These we need. We'll just throw these back in the bag. Okay, extra pieces. Thank you. Now we have the shift drum. Looks like the rubber band came off or broke. So we're gonna have to be careful with this guy. Same with this one. This one broke too. Not anything we need, just the rubber band that was holding it broke. Well, I got the diagram. Where do I go from here? So let's start with the easy one. Looks like it should have the shaft. Boom. The collar inside. Ooh, it's in there. Alright, so this guy, yeah, that guy. This goes across like so. And this little oil hole is going to let oil come through here. And this guy goes back on like that. But anyway, what happens next is this guy goes on somehow and then goes down into this little ridge. Alright, I'm going to try something here. I'm going to try to compress this baby so that the sides with the little notches compress and go on. Look at that. What I figured out, since this is nowhere in the manual and nowhere online and nowhere anywhere, I guess I'm going to hook you up with a little secret, apparently. It has little notches in it. It's not completely round. It has a notch there and a notch there. So what you do is you take your channel locks here on the opposite sides of those notches, and then when you squeeze it, it compresses those little notches and it makes it so you can slide it on in there. And then it needs to go into the little slot. Like so. Yeah. All right. Is that supposed to be like that? Is that bent, or is that supposed to be like that? It looks bent, which doesn't seem cool. So I went through the main shaft and everything is where it's supposed to be, and I cleaned up the splines. They are no longer blued and weird looking, so they are beautiful and shiny and wonderful now and all cleaned up and ready to be rock and rolled. Threads are cleaned up and everything's where it's supposed to be. So let's set that aside. That's all taken care of. This guy we got hooked up too. Let's set him aside. That's already hooked up. Our shift drum. We need to look into that too, because I hope to God that that's not bent. It looks strange to me, but I've never done a 400EX transmission before. So I'm going to look that up and see if it's bent, and I'm going to go through the counter shaft piece by piece to make sure that everything is where it belongs. And I'm going to clean this up too. We can't have any rust. Not going on a brand new build, man. There will be no rust going on there. So we're going to wire wheel that up and get that cleaned up. And hopefully all the transmission gears and washers and circlips and so far that's good. A lot of times that's missing. Alright, the counter shaft. This is the way this is going to roll. So every one I take off, let's get you out of the way. Every one of them that I take off, I'm going to face down. Like this. And then that means it's going to go back up. So let's do this. So there's a washer, a gear, collar, washer, gear. I just need to check to make sure that all these gears are right, and then I'm going to clean up the end of that. We need a washer, boom, a collar, boom, a gear, boom, a washer, boom, and then we need another gear, boom. Okay, that is exactly what we should have. Then on the other side, we need a washer, a gear, a collar. Washer, gear, collar, washer. Washer, gear, collar, washer. And then we need a gear. Washer, collar, gear, washer, gear, circlip, spline clip, gear, circlip, yes, gear, yes. Then we need collar, circlip, deal, collar, gear, washer. Boom. We're all good. So on this other end, we're gonna go washer, gear and collar, washer, gear. And then these two are stuck on there, which I'm cool with. But let's clean up the end of that. That's the most important thing. Let's get the end of that clean. Got the transmission main shaft hooked up. Look at that. Splines are no longer rusty. No rust going on there. Even the inside, beautiful. All right, so let's get this back together and get a rubber band around it. I'm gonna take some oil. Put it on there. Shit, we're all greasy. Might as well get some oil on that motherfucker too, huh? Now, this guy goes on like this. Goes in. Then we need a washer. Then we need the gear and the collar. Then we need the washer. Now we move on to this other side. And we take the gear. There we go. Then we take the washer. Then we'll take the gear and the collar. Then we'll take the washer. And we'll throw a rubber band around this guy. We'll put him aside. 3 pieces ready to rock and roll. We might as well get some oil on this guy. And I have just a thing. In order to get in there, we have our little oil canister where we can get some oil into there. Okay. All right, last piece of the puzzle. The shift drum is now perfectly in line and not bent any longer. So, cleaned up nice too. Shift drum is ready to rock and roll. Let us get to commencing. I think it's that time, is it not? Let's get this goddamn motor together, shall we? Got our shift shaft ready to rock and roll also. That was actually the last piece of the puzzle. So I believe we have everything we need. Shift forks. Well, should we go ahead and grab the motor? Yes, we should. We should grab the motor. What? Yes. Let's do that. Got a long way to go though, so make sure you subscribe. And make sure that you hit that like button. We have a whole lot left on this build. All right. So we got the crank out of the way, tilted over this direction in the counterbalancer, and before we do anything, let us throw us a little bit of assembly lube in here. And a little bit in here. Alright, step 1 is going to be to install the reverse idler, and we'll just take a little bit of assembly lube. There's already some oil on here too, so we'll just get that all lubed up, and we'll throw him in there. Alright, next we're going to drop those transmissions in there. So we have the transmission, like so, and then we're just going to slide it right on into the little slots where they belong. Okay. There it goes. There. All right. Now that we have this baby dialed in, now we can hook up our shift forks. So we're going to take some assembly lube and we're going to just put some on the fork here. And this baby's going to go right on down here. This is the left. You want to make sure these face out. And then our center one is going to go on the main shaft. And then we have the right one, a little bit more. And it's going to go right in here. We're going to get this shift return spring pin out of there and get a new one in, because since I didn't have this case to begin with, I don't know what somebody did with that pin. So I don't know if it has Loctite on it. I don't know if it's the right torque spec. So I'm going to go ahead and take it out and put a brand new one in there. Let's get that return spring out of there. Alright, I'm going to have to use a breaker bar on this sucker because it just doesn't want to move. There we go. So we have a brand spanking new one. And I'm going to use some red Loctite on there because I do not want that thing to come off. Alright, this thing gets torqued down to 17 foot-pounds. Get the shift drum in there. Hook these forks up. Hook the fork and forks up. What we want to do is take a little bit of the assembly lube and lube up these little lobes here, or their little slots, or whatever the hell you want to call them. And we've already put some on the bottom, and we already have assembly lube on the end of the fingers there, so let's go ahead and just put this baby in. And I like to go far counterclockwise as possible because that'll be first gear. So let's just get that in there, and let's hook up, let's get this one in there. Two of them are in. Okay. Alright, now that we have the shift drum in there, we can go ahead and throw the shift fork shaft down through there, and yeah, let's hook this bad dog up. And of course it looks like that this is universal. It is the same on both ends. No threads. Nothing going on there. It just slips into the slot in the case through the holes. But first, we're going to assembly lube. Okay, then you should just be able to wiggle it a little bit, and there you go. Right down into the case. So now we should be able to get our shifter in there, our shift shaft. But first, we're going to have to assemble a few pieces on the shift shaft. Alright, so before we put in the shift shaft, like I had mentioned earlier, in case you were just joining, I purchased a brand new one because I wasn't happy with the one I have. For one thing, the splines are messed up and my shifter does not go on unless I hammer it on, and then it only went on halfway, and you know what? I'm not even playing with it. Brand new one, everything is beautiful. So we need to assemble a few pieces and take some off of here. Okay, first off, we have a spring that goes, this one right here, which has come unwound. And it looks like this when they're brand new. So basically the way it works is it just slips over the shaft right here. And then this little notch goes in the hole. And that's all there is to it. Now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take this spring off of this one and put it on this one. And notice we have a couple of circlips on here. We have those also. So let's get the circlips going. Alright, so let's put on the first one. You can see it goes down here. So let's just get it up over the top. And then we will get it down in the hole. And you only want to expand these just enough to get it around the shaft. You don't want to just bam, just spread it wide open. You want to keep it its integrity. So you send it down all the way. And it looks like it's lined up right about here. Boom. I said boom. Oh, okay. There we go. We're only going to have to take off one of these. So let's take off this top one. Same way it went on. Okay. We'll just keep this one out of the way. We don't want to mess it up. So now, the way you get this off is I hold it over here because you don't want to smack your finger. And then you just take this down here, pry it up. There you go. That's it. Now we need to put that on there. So we don't need this anymore, and we don't need this anymore. Alright, so now the way this works is this spring just slides right on down like this, and you want to line up this first notch right there. And hold it with your thumb. And take you a screwdriver, put it right in between, pry it through and over. And there you go. Now you can see it's latched on to the two indents in the shaft there that's sticking up. And now we can put on our circlip on the top. Once again, you only want to open this just wide enough to get it over. You don't want to overextend it. You want it to keep its integrity. And of course you just put it right into the slot. And let go of it. And there you go. Now we can insert this bad dog on in there and we can shift some gears. Woo! Now we can insert our shift shaft right into here, into the hole. And you want to make sure you compress this and keep this up And you should see it coming out the back side over here. And of course you want to make sure it's off of the shift drum. And the spring goes around the pin. And there, now it shouldn't move. Now we're all the way in 5th gear. Now we're in 4th. See, I am much happier with that shift shaft. See, it doesn't even move. I just wasn't happy the way it fit in the slot. And, like I said, the gears were wore off. Now we're in neutral. Alright, that's it for the bottom end. Not much to it. Transmission, crankshaft, counterbalancer. That's pretty much about it that's in here. So before we get the cases put together,